So this week we're going to talk about neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals that are most typically released from the presynaptic terminal of, one neuron, and then, they traverse the cleft and they interact with receptors that are found postsynaptically on the next. And they can influence, as we've discussed, through ionotropic receptors or ligand-gated channels, right? The charge difference across the membrane, generating excitatory postsynaptic potentials, EPSPs, or inhibitory postsynaptic potentials, IPSPs. Remember, however, there are also metabotropic receptors, right? Where the release of neurotransmitter can influence, biochemical cascade activity within, a neuron. Just to add complexity to all this, remember that these receptors, both ionotropic and metabotropic, are also localized presynaptically. So the release of neurotransmitter, from the presynaptic terminal can influence, through these various receptor mechanisms, the structure and function and activity of the presynaptic sending cell. So these neurotransmitters are actually quite important, but they interact with lots of receptors that are localized, both presynaptic, postsynaptic, on the astrocytic membrane, etc. And there are many kinds of neurotransmitters. There's a number of different ways to sort of divide them up. We can talk about, for example, small molecule neurotransmitters, which are largely, the ones that you've likely heard of, like dopamine and norepinephrine and serotonin. And then there are what are known as neuropeptide neurotransmitters, which are small proteins that are cleaved off typically of larger proteins that are manufactured by cells, through the expression of genes. There's been a lot of interest in the discovery of neuropeptides and their influence on, function in the brain and transmission at synapses. We're going to learn this week that you can also divide up neurons sort of functionally as well, right? So you could talk about what are called modulatory neurotransmitters, which are associated with your level of alertness or arousal. And then you also have, sort of the workhorse neurotransmitters, the ones that actually carry most of the excitatory and inhibitory messages in the brain. And these we're going to see are what are sometimes referred to as amino acid neurotransmitters. So we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to be talking about all these different neurotransmitters in turn. And I look forward to discussing, the important chemicals involved in communication at synapses with you this week.